Hi, we are the Group 4 and we will be presenting our report about contemporary global governance with integration of COVID-19. Before anything else, allow me to emphasize that this video is for educational use only. Our group is allowing our instructor, Mr. Roldan Ardinas, to use this as an educational material. So here are the objectives of our report. Define global governance. Determine the effects of globalization on governments. Identify the institutions that govern international relations. Differentiate internationalism and globalism. Determine the functions of the United Nations. Identify the challenges of global governance in the 21st century. Explain the relevance of the state amid globalization.
Global governance refers to the way in which international affairs and global challenges are managed and regulated by international institutions, treaties, norms, and cooperation among states and non-state actors. It involves development and implementation of rules, policies, and mechanisms to address various global issues and promote international cooperation. The COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted the importance of global governance in several ways. Public health, vaccine distribution, travel and trades, information sharing, global economic recovery, certificates, as well as pandemic preparedness. Public health. The pandemic underscored the need of effective global cooperation in managing public health crisis. The World Health Organization, or WHO, plays a central role in coordinating international responses to health emergencies, but the pandemic revealed shortcomings in the global pandemic preparedness as well as the response mechanisms. Vaccine distribution. The equitable distribution of vaccine worldwide has become a significant global governance issue, ensuring that vaccines are accessible to all countries, especially low-income ones. It has been a challenge and various international initiatives agreements such as COVAX, in which it has been established to address this situation. Travel and trade. The pandemic disrupted global travel and trade, prompting discussion about harmonizing travel restrictions and trade policies to mitigate economic and social impacts of the crisis. Information sharing. Timely and accurate information sharing among countries and organizations has been crucial during the pandemic. Global governance in this context involves promoting transparency and cooperation in data sharing and research on the virus. Global economic recovery. Managing the economic fallout of the pandemic required international cooperation. Organizations like International Monetary Fund, also known as IMF, and the World Bank played roles in providing financial assistance to the countries facing economic challenges. Vaccine passports and health certificates. The pandemic led to discussions about the development and use of digital health certificates and vaccine passports for international travel, raising questions about the data, privacy, and security at the global level. Pandemic preparedness. The pandemic has prompted calls for improved global governance structures and funding mechanisms to ensure better preparedness for future pandemics. In summary, global governance in the context of COVID-19 pandemic involves coordinating efforts to address public health crisis, ensure fair vaccine distribution, managing economic impacts, and establish mechanisms for future preparedness and responses. It underscores the interdependence of nations and the need of collective action to tackle the global challenge or challenges. Therefore, we should be thankful to all the people behind the World Health Organization, International Monetary Fund, as well as the World Bank. Because of them, we have survived and overcame the pandemic, and now we are free for restrictions, especially free to the virus of COVID-19.
Globalization has a significant impact on governments all around the world. These implications differ based on the specific context, policies, and techniques used by each government. However, some typical globalization effects on governments include: first is economic impact. Globalization has had a significant economic impact. It has led to increased trade and investment between countries, which can boost economic growth and create jobs opportunities. Also increase interdependence, where governments become more interdependent with the global. Second, policy adjustments. It should take into account a country's specific circumstances and objectives, balancing the benefits and challenges of globalization. For example, deregulation, a policy approach that reduces government restrictions and regulation on various sectors of the economy, including those affected by globalization. And fiscal policy, it plays a significant role in shaping a country's engagement with globalization. It can influence the attractiveness of a country for foreign investment. Low corporate tax rates, for example, can encourage multinational corporations to establish operation in a particular country, contributing to globalization. Third is political impacts. Political factors have a substantial impact on globalization. Here's how politics can influence globalization. Sovereignty. While globalization can limit certain aspects of national sovereignty, it can also provide opportunities for cooperation and mutual benefit among nations. And political pressure. Political pressure on globalization is a reflection of the tensions and challenges that arise when balancing national interest with the benefits and complexities of an interconnected world. Fourth, social and cultural effects. Cultural effects on globalization are significant and multifaceted. Globalization, the process of increased interconnectedness and interdependence among countries, has a profound impact on cultures worldwide. Such as cultural exchange, it refers to the interaction and sharing of cultural elements, ideas, practices, and values between different cultures and societies around the world. Social inequalities. Globalization often leads to increased economic inequality within countries. While it can create wealth and opportunities for some, it can also disproportionately benefit the wealthy and exacerbate income disparities. Ninth, political ideology and populism. Political ideology and populism play significant roles in shaping a country's approach to globalization. They influence how a government or political leader views the benefits and drawbacks of globalization, and the policies they implement in response.
Technology and information flow. Globalization has spurred rapid advancement in information technology, including the internet, smartphones, and social media. These technologies have democratized access to information by making it more widely available and accessible to people around the world. It has also expanded the reach of international news media. People can now access news information from a wide range of sources, providing them with diverse perspective and a broader understanding of global events. Environmental concerns. While globalization has facilitated economic growth, technological advancement, and improved living standards for many, it has also raised several environmental concerns. Due to increased resource consumption and industrial expansion, loss of biodiversity and deforestation has been very rampant to make way for agriculture and infrastructure. Furthermore, globalization has also resulted in pollution and waste generation. Thus, the government may need to balance economic growth with environmental protection. Security challenges. Increased interconnectedness and interdependence among countries has also given rise to transnational threats that transcend national borders. Terrorism and cybersecurity threats are the main risks that governments have to address because globalization has enabled terrorists to access information, data, funds, and recruits from around the world. International relations. Trade in commodities and services, financial flows, and investment have increased dramatically in response to global changes, resulting in a global economy where the prosperity of one country is closely correlated with that of other nations. Additionally, the protection of individual freedoms and rights around the world is a major concern for governments and international organizations, making human rights one of the main topics in international relations. With regards to conflicts, conflict resolution efforts have been both aided, and complicated by globalization. Economic linkages have improved the possibility of diplomatic solutions and conflict avoidance, but they have also made it simpler for conflicts to span borders and include numerous participants. Public perception and trust. It's important to recognize that public perception and trust are not uniform and can vary significantly among individuals, regions, and cultures. Additionally, the impact of globalization on public perception and trust is dynamic and evolving, influenced by changing events, communication technologies, and societal developments. As such, understanding and managing public perception and trust in a globalized world are important considerations for government institutions and leaders.
Hi there. I'm here to identify the institutions that govern international relations. So international relations are governed by a complex of international institutions, organizations, and agreements. So these institutions play various roles in facilitating the diplomacy, cooperation, and the management of global issues. So some of the key institutions that govern international relations include the United Nations, so UN. So the United Nations is a central institution in international relations founded in 1945, aimed at peace, security, and cooperation among its member states. So it consists of various specialized agencies and bodies such as the UN Security Council, the UN General Assembly, the UNICEF, the World Health Organizations, and more. And the second one is the World Trade Organization, or the WTO. So the WTO oversees international trade agreements and resolves trade disputes among its member countries. So it promotes global liberalization and sets rules for trade relations. So the third one is the Monetary Fund, or the IMF. The IMF provides financial assistance, economic stability, and policy advice to member countries. So it helps manage the global monetary system and offers a lot of resources to countries facing economic crisis. So the fourth one is the World Bank Group. So the World Bank provides financial and technical assistance developing countries such as infrastructure projects, poverty reductions, and economic development. So it comprises various institutions like the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, or the IBRD, and the International Development Association, or the IDA. And the next one is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or the NATO. NATO is a military alliance that includes North American and European countries. Its primary purpose is to provide collective defense and promote security among its member states. So the next one is the European Union, or the EU. So the EU is a political and economic union European countries that work closely on issues like trade, security, and governance, and also its own institutions, including the European Commission and the European Parliament. And the next one is the Organization of American States, or the OAS. So the OAS promotes cooperation and diplomacy among countries in the Americas and addresses issues like democracy, human rights, and security. So the next one is the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or the ASEAN. ASEAN fosters political and economic cooperations among Southeast Asian nations and works to maintain regional stability. And the next one is the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the SCO. The SCO is a Eurasian political, economic, and security organization comprising countries in Asia and Europe. It focuses on issues like counter-terrorism, regional cooperation. So the next one is the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, or the OIC. The OIC represents Muslim majority countries and aims to promote cooperation in various fields including political, economic, and cultural matters. So the last one is the International Criminal Court, or the ICC. It's a permanent international court that prosecutes individuals for the most serious international crimes, such as genocide, war crimes, and war crimes against humanity. So these are just a few of the many institutions that play a role in governing international relations. Additionally, there are numerous regional organizations, bilateral agreements, and informal diplomatic forums that contribute to the complex landscape of global governance.
Internationalism and globalism. Although the two terms may appear to be similar, yet there exists conceptual difference between the two. Internationalism refers to the idea of cooperation and collaboration between nations on the global scale. It emphasizes the importance of diplomacy, mutual understanding, and shared interests among countries. Internationalism recognizes the sovereignty and distinctness of each nation but seeks to foster peaceful relationships and collective action to address global challenges. Globalism, on the other hand, refers to a broader and more interconnected view of the world. It sees the world as a global community where borders and national boundaries are less significant. Globalism promotes the idea of unified global society, economy, and culture where goods, ideas, and people can freely move across borders. It places less emphasis on the national identities and sovereignties, instead focusing on interdependence and interconnectedness of nations.
So the United Nations, or the UN, is an international organization that was founded in 1945 with the primary purpose of promoting peace, cooperation, and collaboration among nations. It has a range of roles and functions aimed at achieving its overarching goals. Here are some key roles and functions of the United Nations. First, maintenance of international peace and security. The UN plays a central role in preventing conflicts and resolving disputes among nations through diplomacy, peacekeeping operations, and sanctions, if necessary. The UN Security Council, consisting of 5 permanent members, which is the China, France, Russia, the United Kingdom, and the United States, and 10 rotating members, has the authority to authorize military actions and sanctions. The second is the promotion of human rights. The UN is committed to upholding and protecting human rights worldwide. It drafted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948, which serves as a foundation for international human rights law. Various UN agencies, such as the United Nations on Human Rights Council, work to monitor and address human rights abuses globally. So the third is the international development and humanitarian assistance. The UN provides humanitarian aid and assistance to countries and regions affected by conflicts, natural disasters, and other crises. UN agencies like UNICEF, UNDP, or the United Nations Development Program, and UNHCR, which is the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, are responsible for development programs, refugee support, and humanitarian relief efforts. Fourth is the sustainable development. The UN promotes sustainable development through initiatives like Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, a set of 17 goals aimed at addressing poverty, inequality, environmental sustainability, moreover, by 2023. So fifth is the environmental protection. The UN is actively involved in addressing global environmental issues, including climate change, deforestation, biodiversity loss, and pollution. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or the IPCC, is a well-known UN body that assesses scientific information that is related to climate change. Six is the promotion of international law. The UN works to develop and uphold international law, including treaties and conventions on issues such as arms control, disarmament, and the laws of war. Seventh is the promotion of democracy and governance. The UN supports democratic governance and the rule of law in a member of states through electoral assistance, capacity building, and promoting good governance practices. 8 is the health and pandemic responses. The World Health Organization, or the WHO, is a UN agency that leads global efforts to address public health issues, including pandemic response and disease control. So 9th is the cultural exchange and education. The UNESCO, or the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, promotes cultural exchange, education, and the preservation of cultural heritage in worldwide. 10th is the coordination of international efforts. The UN serves as a platform for a member of states to collaborate on global issues, exchange ideas, and negotiate treaties and agreements. 11th is the conflict resolution and mediation. The UN often acts as a mediator in conflicts, between nations or within nations, facilitating negotiations and peace processes. Last is the disarmament and arms control. The UN promotes arms control and disarmament efforts to reduce the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction and conventional arms. So these rules and functions highlight the diverse responsibilities of the United Nations in addressing a wide range of global challenges and working toward a more peaceful, just, and sustainable world. So in summary, the United Nations or the UN has roles in conflict prevention and human rights, aid, elections, and disaster relief. Its main function is to preserve international peace and security. The UN aims to save generations from war, promote human rights, and establish better standards of life. It plays a pivotal role in global affairs and can contribute to a just international order. The Security Council, a General Assembly, and Secretary General all works towards peace and security. The UN also focuses on developing relations among nations that is based in equal rights and self-determination.
Climate change, one of the most pressing global challenges. Climate change requires coordinated efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, adapt to its impacts, and transition to a sustainable, low-carbon economy. Achieving consensus on climate action and enforcing commitments is a major challenge. Second one is the pandemics and global health. The COVID-19 pandemic highlighted the need for global governance in managing health crisis, ensuring equitable access to vaccines and healthcare resources. Coordinating responses and preventing future pandemics are significant challenges. The third one is the economic inequality. The gap between rich and poor countries, as well as within the countries, continues to widen. Addressing economic inequality requires international cooperation to promote fair trade, debt relief, and sustainable development. Next is cybersecurity. The next one is cybersecurity. The digital age has brought new threats, including cyber attacks and digital espionage, creating global norms and regulations for cyberspace while protecting individual rights is a complex challenge. Migration and refugees, conflicts, environmental disasters, and economic disparities drive migration flows. Managing migration and providing refuge displaced populations and required coordinated policies and humanitarian responses. The next one is the nuclear proliferation. Preventing the spread of nuclear weapons and disarmament remain significant challenges. The potential for nuclear conflicts and the emergencies of new nuclear armed states global security risks. Next one is global trade and protectionism. Protectionist and policies trade disputes can disrupt the global economy. Striking a balance between national interest and the benefits of the international trade is an ongoing challenge.
Digital governance and privacy. Ensuring privacy and data security in the digital age while regulating tech giants and managing the global flow of information and complex tasks. Human rights and authoritarians, defending human rights and countering authoritarian regimes while respecting national sovereignty can be difficult to reconcile. Environmental degradation. Beyond climate change, challenges like deforestation, biodiversity loss, and pollution require international cooperation to protect the planet's ecosystems. Terrorism and transnational crime. Non-state actors pose threats to global security, combating terrorism, organized crime, and cyber criminals necessitates international collaborations and terrorism and transnational crime. Non-state actors pose threats to global security, combating terrorism, organized crime, and cyber criminals necessitates international collaboration. Resources scarcity. Competition for finite resources including water, energy, and minerals can lead to conflict. Managing these resources sustainably requires global governance. Geopolitical rivalries. Major powers' competition for influence can undermine international cooperation and stability. Nationalism and populism. Rising nationalist and populist movements in many countries can hinder efforts to strengthen global governance and multilateral institutions. Technological advancement. Rapid advancement in fields like artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and autonomous weapons raise ethical and regulatory challenges that requires global consensus.
The relevance of the state amid globalization remain significant in several ways. Number one, governance and regulation. States play a crucial role in regulating and governing economic activities with their borders. They enact laws, establish regulations, and oversee industries to ensure fair competition, protect consumers, and maintain social and environmental standards. This is vital even in a globalized world where businesses operate across borders. Number two, national security. States are responsible for ensuring the security and safety of their citizens and territories. Globalization has not diminished the importance of state security apparatuses. In fact, it has necessitated adapting to new challenges such as cyber threats, terrorism, and transnational crime. Number three, trade and diplomacy. States negotiate trade agreements, treaties, and engage in diplomatic relations with other nations. In the era of globalization, international trade remains a cornerstone of many economies, and states use their diplomatic influence to advance their national interests. Number four, protecting sovereignty. States protect their sovereignty, ensuring that their legal, political, and territorial integrity is maintained. In a globalized world, they must balance this with international cooperation and adherence to international laws and norms. Number five, social welfare and services. States continue to provide essential and public services like education, healthcare, infrastructure, development to their citizens. Even as globalization brings economic changes, the state's role in addressing social inequalities remain crucial. And last, 6. Crisis response. States respond to various crises, including natural disasters, health emergencies, and economic downturns. These crises highlight the importance of state capacity and leadership. In essence, while globalization has brought about increased interconnectedness and interdependence among nations, the state's role remains relevant in regulating, protecting, and serving the interest of its citizens within this evolving global landscape.